I feel like there are certain people who are natural born leaders, right? So like if you look at statistics, 10% are natural born leaders, 20% supposedly possess a trait, 85% of people are followers. So I think that's one of the seeds that's planted. And then if you're not fortunate enough to have that first seed planted, a lot of times you're going to have failure or you're going to be kicked in the teeth. And then it's how do you build that? Because we all have a choice, right? It's freedom of choice. So I think to your point, you have the choice to either evolve, right, as a leader or a competitor or that mindset. And I talk about all the time, it's fixed.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Undeniable Podcast. I'm here with a super, super special guest. I would say he's pretty undeniable, which is the Undeniable Podcast. Got my guy, Erik Westrum. Welcome to the podcast, my brother. And super awesome to have you on here, learn a little bit about your story, your sports background, some of the challenges, and some of the stuff you're doing today. So welcome on.
Appreciate
you being out here, man.
No, it's been awesome to be out here at, I call it the compound, the LA Army, man. It's been
the Lion's Den.
The Lion's Den. It's been a good couple days, so appreciate you having me out.
No, I'm excited to just personally learn about your story a little bit more, some of the stuff. Like, take me all the way back. Like, I want to start at childhood, you've had to start doing ice hockey, where did you grow up and how did you even get into your professional career, starting there?
Yeah, I mean, the big part for me is growing up in Minnesota, it's almost like Canada, right? You learn to walk and then you learn to skate. And for myself, my dad actually played professionally for 10 years. So it was kind of in our blood, in our family. It was a way to connect. In the winter, it's so cold, especially right now, even it's cold up there. And you get out there, you skate, you're free. And it was kind of, for me, it was a place just to be myself. Didn't overly excel right away, I wouldn't say. I love the game, but I was a multi-sport athlete.
Yep.
So trying to figure out kind of my direction. And my mom was a school teacher. My dad, played professional hockey, and then he ended up scouting in the NHL later in life. But for me, it was one of those, hey, do good in school, and then you can play hockey. Don't do good in school, then you're not going to be able to play. So for me, it was always kind of a boyhood dream as I got, probably 6, 7, 8, 9, wanting to play.
You start, at what age did you throw on the first skates? Was it on a backyard pond? Was it in a rink?
Yeah, so I was probably, I think I was about 4 years old. Down the street from us, old school, it was a baseball field, and then they used to flood it in the winter. So a lot of places in Minnesota, they don't do it as much anymore because there's so much indoor ice.
That was very common?
Very common. So they'd flood it. You just walk down there, and I have pictures, pushing a chair. That's how we'd learn how to skate. It was just a folding chair. You'd learn how to skate out there. And once you kind of got enough confidence, the chair was gone.
Yep.
Put a hockey stick in your hands, and the rest is history.
Was it kind of see, I envision kind of in certain neighborhoods, you go out and everyone's playing pickup basketball, right? Up north, right, where you were in Minnesota, was it just you were going out there and everyone's playing pickup ice hockey and then they got their skates on and do you see that when you were just driving down the street?
So for us, it was we lived on Ferris Avenue, and then it was 137th Street. So Ferris Avenue, we're the Ferris Flyers, we call ourselves, and they were the 137th Street Bombers. So we'd play.
Oh, you guys create a team.
So we'd create, so basketball, football, soccer, baseball, hockey. So like you said, you drive through our neighborhood at any given time. We might have been playing street hockey in the summer, or we might have been down at the park playing baseball. And then we'd play football, and then we'd soccer. So we had, on our neighborhood street, we had, a couple kids go D1 in soccer. We had some football players, basketball, hockey. So it was that platform and having the ability. And I was kind of in the middle as far as age. So I had an older brother, 2 years older. I had a younger sister, and then there's neighbors, in kind of both age ranges. So for me, it was always trying to compete against the older kids. And I could tell you stories of me, cross-checking and two-handing older kids and then running as fast as I could home because I knew that guy was going to beat the crap out of me eventually.
You have one that sticks out really, really heavily that kind of sparred you, or that goes back to the craziest, backyard sports experience?
I think there's two. One is me and my brother would go down and we'd take on 5, 6, 7 guys because he was a goalie. So he'd play goalie and I'd just take on 5, 6, 7 guys and try to compete. And then the second one is in one of those situations playing against older kids. One of the older neighbors, he kept, he's beating me and doing stuff. And finally I just two-handed him. like, which means taking my hockey stick right across his ankles, cross-checked him, gave him a bloody nose, and he followed me home, but I had my hockey stick kind of like a sword. So I was just swinging it at his head the whole way so he couldn't get at me. Ended up taking me down a little bit, but he was pretty easy on me. So it was like, but the funniest part is 2 days later, 3 days later, you're playing against the same kids. Same thing with baseball. I remember a kid, he threw his bat at me as a pitcher, and I went over and grabbed him and just beat the crap out of him. But
rivalry, there's probably almost deeper rivalries when you're growing up as a child in the neighborhood than there is even at like the pro level. Oh yeah, that's like, it's personal. It's everything to you as a kid versus you have family and other things that it's like you want to get that W. You want to be the shining star.
Yeah, and a lot of it, again, it was kind of earning your stripes, right? So like you said, whether it's pro sports, college, high school, all those levels, it was different because you're not playing necessarily for a trophy, but you're playing for pride.
Yeah.
You're playing for, right, the cliche, the name, right, on the back of your jersey. Instead, normally you're playing for the front. But in the neighborhood, it's like, hey, this is me, my brother, my sister, whoever it is, playing against other neighbors. And I always just had, that compete. I was like just like a lion out there, just like going after people. And it was just, I wanted to win.
Do you think that natural ability, or not even the natural ability, but do you think that drive is trained or it's natural? Like, do you think that somebody can be taught how to have that drive? Or do you think that people just have to have it? Or what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's a great conversation, right? Because I've been in the past, after getting out of hockey and not kind of forecasting the front end or the back end, but I've done a lot of research on that, right? Because I feel like there are certain people who are natural born leaders, right? So like if you look at statistics, 10% are natural born leaders, 20% supposedly possess a trait, 85% of people are followers. Because in both of those categories, a lot of people don't put the work in, right? And that's what you guys talk about. It's making sure you embrace discipline and you do it. So I think some people probably have maybe an edge, right? And sometimes it's, how you're born, but more so like, what are you born into, right? Which is, my dad playing professional hockey. He was tough, beat the shit out of guys. I think he got 98 fights, lost like one maybe. So I hear stories about that. So I think he always was like, hey, if you want something, go get it. So I think that's one of the seeds that's planted. And then if you're not fortunate enough to have that first seed planted, a lot of times you're going to have failure or you're going to be kicked in the teeth. And then it's, how do you build that, right? And how do you go to that where you're not going to get denied? Because we all have a choice, right? It's freedom of choice. So I think to your point, you have the choice to either evolve, right, as a leader or a competitor or that mindset. And I talk about all the time, it's fixed to a growth mindset. Anybody can push the button, be in a fixed mindset. Oh, this is what I was handed. Yeah, this is what I was given. Yeah. But to the next point is, when does that light bulb go off and like realize, like, no offense, no one's going to feel sorry for you, right? Sure. You got to get out of your own way and you got to step up, put your big boy pants on and get after it. So I think there could be a little bit, right, that you're born with.
I think that I would say the split, or if I had to put like a number to it, I think 60% of people, not necessarily maybe born with it, but go through certain things. I guess would that be taught? But yeah. I think not necessarily born, but the best leaders and the people that go through that are the people that have adversity in their life, versus a lot of the people, they don't have adversity, and so they can't do those things.
Well, and that's where you learn, right? I think for me, and I talk about it all the time, right? It's like, I had a failure, and then I embraced discipline and had success. And then it's like the definition of insanity. I'd go back and do the same crap that I had failure with. And then I'd be like, okay, embrace discipline.
It's a math equation.
Yeah. And
it's like a math equation for success.
Yeah. And as you get older, you realize like, hey, I got to do A plus B plus C equals D. Whereas as you're younger, you're like, I can probably skip B and C to get to D. And it's like,
you're trying to find every reason and way to skip the steps.
Yeah.
And you almost need to get punished and sit in that pain and failure and those opportunities to realize that there was no creative way to get rich quick or to, become the best athlete. It's all just work. You have to follow the path to become the best. You might be a little bit naturally better than most, but to get to that top level requires all those things. And that leads me into this too. Like, we're talking about upbringing. What was your upbringing like? Like, did you have the traditional really good family? Were they split? Was it, was poverty, middle class? Like, what was your upbringing like?
Yeah, I'd say, I was blessed. My mom and dad both, they're still married. It's been 50 plus years. They've been married, which is really cool. My older brother is 2 years older. My younger sister is 3.5 years younger. I grew up in a town in Apple Valley, Minnesota. I'd say middle class, right? But it was more so like I know my parents had to do everything they could to provide for us, right? Whether it was food, whether it was clothing, whether it was sports, all those situations. I can look back at it and what kind of car you were driving, payments they had to make. And you can tell in those certain situations, they tried to provide for us the best that they could. And anything that would come in would be spent, on the family. So it was not that, we weren't in poverty. We weren't, we were blessed, right, with a nice house, the ability to play sports, the ability to eat, have, food and shelter and everything else. And I think that's where I gained the appreciation for, you work hard to get ahead. You work hard to be able to impact and inspire others. You work hard to be able to serve your family, right? Grew up in a Catholic household. So religion was important, but it was kind of like you can check the box if you want sort of thing. And it was, why do I have to go? Grew, in my spiritual journey, the same thing as I was all in, all out, all in, all out. And as you know, a lot of people you work with probably in your own life, other high performers, you're all in and then you're like, maybe I can do this, right? And you get tempted and you get, what's the easy button and everything else. And then it's where, good jokingly say, God pulls the rug out and like, hey, you want to go your way? And you're like, oh, shit,
True.
In that sense.
So fast forward me to your professional career. So obviously we're doing pretty good in hockey. Had some people look at you. What was the scouting like? Who did you go to first? Walk me through that.
Yeah. So for me, just like the 1 minute snippet is 8th grade, I made the B team. All right. So I wasn't even the top 20 player in my own city.
B team is in the B team for
hockey. Yes. So instead of making the A team, like going into high school, I made the B team.
Is that city and where you're at? Is it like is it a competitive type of like for there to be a B team? I feel like there has to be competition up there. That's pretty.
There's a ton. A, B, C. Now it's like AA, B1, B2. It's like, so it's deep, right? And so for me, like I wasn't even on the radar, right, to play with the best kids in 8th grade, right?
Even on 8th grade, it's huge.
So I was pissed. I was, and you can go back to like Michael Jordan's story of,
you played
JV
for almost 10 years at this point. I mean, on and off.
Yep.
Playing different sports.
And and I think a lot of it though is like I expected, right? Because I played
burns.
Yeah. So I expected to kind of be on that team because I kind of was with a lot of those kids. All of a sudden I don't make it. And that was like the turning point of like, you know what? I got to do extra. So I started shooting pucks, recording what I wrote. I still have my goal sheet from high school and it's pretty cool. Like checking all, the only thing I didn't accomplish was penalty minutes because I was a sore loser. So in there, I'm like, hey, less than X penalty minutes and I usually would not accomplish that. But
that might be the reason why you hit those other goals though.
Oh, for sure.
Because that fueled you. That was your fire.
Yeah.
Because that was your one piece that got you to get a little pissed off.
Yep. And it's exactly why I went from 8th grade to winning the state tournament, one of the best players in the state, full ride scholarship to the University of Minnesota, top 15 all time. There's a 100-year history at that school, top 15 in scoring, top 10 in penalty minutes. Then went on, to play professional hockey. And it was, one of those, it's the same thing. You have failure, then you start to figure out like embracing discipline, and then you have success. And it was like that whole journey from probably 8th grade, like a 14-year-old kid to, now I'm 45 and it's like, I've still 30 years later, you still figure it out, but now you have consistency and you show up every single day. And I think that's what took me from where I was to being going into professional hockey. And to get back to full circle to kind of that process is, I was scouted by a lot of different college teams. And I still remember laying on my parents' bed because it's old school, right? And the phone in the wall.
On the ring on a certain day.
Sunday. Yep. Sunday between, like 6 and 9.
And did you have an idea what schools you wanted to go and what schools there was chances and which ones were like, ooh, this one might be tough?
I wanted to go to the University of Minnesota because my dad went there and I had grown up watching them play forever. So that's where I wanted to go. But I was, scouted from anywhere from North Dakota to St. Cloud to Notre Dame to Harvard to all these schools. So I visited some of those schools, and I still remember laying in bed one day and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take these phone calls. And I said to my parents, I go, why am I even talking to the other schools? Because I was getting ready to go to Notre Dame because I wanted to go to the football game. And I'm like, okay, basically I'm just using these experiences, but I have a full ride to the University of Minnesota guaranteed for 4 years. Why? It's like, here's your goal. Why are you even, It was weird. So I remember I said, hey, I just so you know, thanks for the call. I'm going to commit to the University of Minnesota. Thanks for the call. I'm going to commit to the University of Minnesota. And I went through that and I just said, I'm all in, right? As you know, when you're 1 foot in and 1 foot out, zero chance, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm all in.
You made that decision. Did you make it day of, or was there this moment where you knew those phone calls were going to be coming in, or?
No, it was like that. It was, I knew, so I had taken those phone calls for so long, and then I kind of reevaluated because my parents were like, hey, what are you thinking? Where are you at? And I'm like, here's where I'm at. Why am I even taking these phone calls? So I just said, hey, just so you know, I'm fully committed to the University of Minnesota, which was a pretty cool experience.
So full ride scholarship, you go in, how was college?
First year, right? I mean, I'm 18. I graduated. I jokingly tell my mom wanted to get rid of me and my brother, so she sent us early, summer birthdays. So I graduated high school when I was 17. Went into college, right? All of a sudden, you're on your own dorm, right? Alcohol, women. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's like, wow, right? And you're an athlete, and you kind of,
have the show.
Yeah, you have the show. You can do
it's easy now. It's around you. It's, hey, we're gonna.
Yeah,
I get it.
So my first part of that season, I was just average, and then after Christmas, I remember I'm like, I'm in this situation. I want to get to here. And it was like game over, right? It was working out before practice, working out after practice, going to practice. I mean, I had a 4.0 right after that and just consistently put the work in and had success, right? So the last 2 years, two-time captain, leading scorer, did a lot of cool stuff, set our team up for, right when I was leaving, back-to-back national championships afterwards. University hasn't won since.
You guys won back-to-back.
Right after I left. Yeah. So it was cool. It was pretty cool for me to be able to help lay that foundation from a leadership standpoint. A lot of my friends were freshmen and sophomores, right? Because I'm bringing those guys up. I'm like, here's how it's done, right? Similar to what you guys do here, talking about, just treating everyone with respect from the top down. And so for me as a junior and a senior, it was bringing those younger guys in. Even from, back when you used to be able to do initiation, I would do it with them. So I'm doing the crazy stuff, taking shots and riding bicycles and, weird clothing. I'm like, hey, I'm your leader. I will do this with you.
So the partying and all that stuff that kind of maybe has set you back, do you regret it?
I mean, obviously I regret it, but I think, and I say but, because I think what happened, to your point even about the penalty minute thing, right, is like that probably sparked me in a weird dysfunctional way, right, of like playing guilty, of like, okay, if you're going to, party hard, you got to play hard.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was probably like a very dysfunctional personal internal battle that I didn't even know it was happening, because pro sports, I always jokingly say, hey, 97% of what you hear about pro athletes is probably true. Right. It's probably true. Right. Whether it's drinking, whether it's women, whether it's financial bankruptcy, because you're in this, it's a false world. Right. I mean, there's times where.
What's the biggest false world? So when this is good, we can transition to this. What do you think is the one or two things is the false world thing that people portray out from, just professional sports in general?
Yeah, the difference is, back then probably changed a little bit now just because of technology and social media. But you drive down the road, unfortunately, intoxicated and get pulled over and they'll drive you home. We were in situations where, we were driving cop cars with cops under the influence in certain cities.
So do you think that it
was crazy?
Because it's because people have never had that level of fame and that level of success and money and all that attention, that it just feels so damn good that you just take it balls to the wall? Or what do you think drives people when they know that they're eventually going to get screwed or something's going to happen, They're going to get into an accident. They're going to get put in jail. They're going to get put blasted on the news, right? Because that's big news, right? Athlete gets DUI, boom, screws, and then it's a huge deal, lose all your scholarship. What do you think drives people to do that instead of drawing that line and having some sort of balance?
I honestly think it's not going to happen to me.
Yeah.
Right? You don't think it's going to happen to you, right? Because you've had so much success that it's almost like, because I see it on the news all the time, even now, like, I'm like, what's that guy thinking? But I go back to when I was in those situations, obviously like made a pivot to change that, right? Even if we'd go out, always hire a driver, right? Or if certain things would happen, right? You change that kind of process of what you're doing. Yep. But even in life, it's the same thing. I think you get to that point where it's like, you're unstoppable, right? Like you can do whatever you want because you've never been told no, right? You've always been given.
It's dangerous for a man, especially, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Very dangerous.
Yeah. When you can, bless my wife, going through, we've been married 20 years, right?
Right. That's massive.
Which is awesome. And it's always been, and it's inspirational to hear Andy even talk, about him and his wife of where they're at. But for us, like faith is number one now, right? Faith is number one. And I think that's transition from what you asked is there. I was like 2 feet in, all in, like my freshman going into my sophomore year when I made that, transition from like not partying as much, all in on Bible study. Ironically, what is it? 30 some years later, I'm still in a Bible study with some of those guys, which is crazy. We've come full circle. Ex-NHL guys that were in a study when I was 18, 19 years old, led by the same guy, Billy Butters, in the faith. So it's the faith, right? And Jesus, the Christianity piece that I didn't have in those times, right? And I think that's what happens. Guys feel like they're God. Guys feel like they're unstoppable. They feel like they can do anything they want because a team or an agent isn't going to tell them no. If you're producing, like, okay, maybe like slow it down a little bit. Hey, but that's okay. You're producing.
Yeah. I've noticed that too, even like through different layers of success that I've had, and I even found certain times, been with Andy for 5 years. So we've had different ups and downs of different seasons. I've even had times where I'm like, Andy's let things slide. And I said, hey, I know I'm not perfect, but I'm like, I don't want you to like allow or tolerate certain things. I'm asking you to keep giving me that level of accountability, even though that you're proud and you love what I'm doing. I'm like, don't give me special treatment over the other guy that you'll rip at. I'm like, I also want the same rip because where I want to go, it's going to require that level of accountability. And I was like, we'll hold this conversation here. But I was like, don't ever like pat me on the back because you know what my goals are. And he was like, done. Now that you said that, I was like, I'll always hold you to it. And ever since that conversation, it was cool because we both got to identify it, having it come from me. Because I was like, oh, this is going to be dangerous for me because I'm getting that sensation of, oh, I'm one of the best. I'm making all this money. I'm going to speak on stage. I'm going to do this. I'm the fucking man. And it's like, I'm nowhere even close to where I want to go when it's just starting, and it'll be completely gone in a year if I don't protect it and act like this is everything to my life, because it is. Yes. And I remember that conversation was just so massive for me because that shift, a lot of people, they don't catch it. They love the feeling. They love that feeling more than the actual grind in protecting it and the realization of like, hey, someone else is coming to take your job, your spot. They want what you have. If you have something that's special, professional athlete, whether you're a top guy in sales, they're coming for you,
Well, I like how you said that, right, of the accountability piece, because when I had success, right, I had self-accountability, right, and self-awareness and self-reflection, but then I would also let other people, and I say let, because there's times I didn't allow people. I would be like, someone trying to keep me calm, I'm like, dude, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I'm producing for you. Like, why are you even talking? Like, I got 8 goals already in the first X amount. The next guy has 2. So don't talk to me about that. And it's like, now I look back.
It's an invisible cap and a barrier. It's your ego defending what you have instead of they're trying to say, hey, there's more.
There's more. Exactly.
But you're trying to defend your own feelings.
Yeah. Because you don't want to, like, it's getting uncomfortable where it's like truly elite athletes and true elite people like want more. So I love what you just said is like, most people can't do that because they're like going to blame someone else, right? Yep. They're going to sign up to be coached by someone or consulting or led by someone. And it doesn't happen. Easiest thing. Oh, it was your fault, Danny.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait a second. Let's go back to what you said you were going to do. Did you do it? Well, yeah, I did 5 of the 6. Okay. Well, what do you think? What about that 6th one? Let's look at that.
Yeah.
And you did the 5, but did you do it at an elite level, or did you just check the box? Right. I think that's the accountability. Whenever I work with accountability groups, I always talk about that. I want to work out more. Okay. What does that mean? You have to set like specific measurable
goals and deadlines.
Yes. Because
Big on deadlines.
yeah, if I tell you I want to get in shape, I'm going to work out more. Working out to you might be, an hour and 15. Working out to me is like if I go 10 minutes on the bike at, level 3, you're not going to hit your goal in 60 days.
Nope.
Right. So how do you get, like you said, specific and deadlines? And I think that's where people don't want to
be. Word.
Yeah.
People will say all the time, well, I want to make $30,000 a month. Okay. By when? Right. Because you have that deadline, people lack urgency, which is why humans are really lazy. We're wired to do the bare minimum. That's like just naturally how we're wired. We want to, we don't want to get uncomfortable. We want to go out there, back when the cavemans, got the freaking bats and spears, they're just trying to stay alive. I want to transition this here because I want to get to, so when you got drafted, I really like this story. Who did you get initially drafted from? What was that transition? Because you didn't hit it big again, and you had to go through that cycle almost for like the 3rd time. It feels like at a whole nother level. Walk us through that.
Yeah, I think every time you have success, it's like you're getting closer and closer to the top. So like 8th grade, I'm competing against a ton of people, right, that are average. And then as you get closer, you're competing against like elite. So you come into pro hockey. Every one, if they're from the U.S. or Canada, they've been an all-star. They've been up for a certain award. They come from Europe, right? So now it's the world. So as I came in, my first training camp actually here in Scottsdale, Arizona with the Coyotes, that's who I was drafted by. Wayne Gretzky's on the ice, right? Best player of all time. And I'm skating with him. And I'm like, shit, I made it. Go to, the dinner thing. And he's like, hey, Westy, what's up? And I'm like, dude, this is it. Talking to my cousin and my brother, like people who idolize them. I'm like, I'm hanging out with Wayne Gretzky. And I just got so complacent that I felt like, again, I deserved it because of what I accomplished before. But it's like sales or anything, right? The new year comes up, you're at 0, buddy. You're at 0.
Hard feeling for most people.
Right? So it's the same thing. I get there, I'm at 0. Right when I get sent down to the minors, I'm like, I want to be traded and all this crap.
How did that happen, though? I don't want you to skip over that. So you got sent to the minors. How long, how quickly, what made that?
So training camp, right, starts and there's, 45, 60 guys, whatever, they make cuts, right? Similar to football or any sport, you got to get to a certain roster. So go through training camp and, make it through the first rounds of the cuts. And I think I'm getting closer and then I get sent down. So you got to go back home to Minnesota, wherever you're from. And then wherever the minor league team is, that was in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Yep.
Put your tail between your legs and it's like, hey, I'm going to the minors, get your U-Haul, pack your shit up, go get an apartment. And it's like, hey, here's your team for the year. Unless you get called up, unless you prove yourself. So for me, get sent down, blame other people, ask for a trade.
Were you pissed?
Oh, I was very pissed. Yeah.
You thought you had it in the bag.
Yeah. I thought, I'm like, what? I thought I'd make the team or at least get, a chance or whatever. But
question. Do you think still to this day, I want to ask you this, do you think that in that moment you were like pissed and emotional because you just didn't get it? Like, do you think that still to this day that you had the skill set to get it and then you didn't? Do you think that you truly shouldn't have got it? Does that make sense?
I don't think I should. I didn't deserve it. Yeah, I didn't deserve it because
there's a difference.
Yeah.
There's because there's a level of like, there was probably a good chance. I probably should have been there, right? But then there's also the other side.
Yeah, because I went through after my senior year, I had an opportunity to go play in the minors, right, to prove myself. And I said no and went to spring break, right? Like, great decision. Hey, go prove yourself with your new company and team. Now instead I'm going to go, party and hang out for spring break with my buddies, right? So, I mean, like you said, you look back, not the right way to go about it. Then it's, summer, I work my ass off, get to that position, but I'm already behind the 8 ball. Right? And then as I went in, there's unbelievable hockey players that I was blessed to play with and against, and I just was not there yet. I thought I was there. I was told I was there, but I wasn't there.
What are some of the skill sets that you identified that were setting you back? Is it your skating ability? Is it control with the stick? Is it everything? Like, what were the 1 or 2 things that were the biggest gap for you where you're like, I don't have that level of control with the stick, or is it maybe my skating skills? What was like the one or two where you're like, there's a gap here?
Yeah, honestly, I think there was skill level in it, but then it went back down to like consistency and confidence, right? So it was like, not that I wasn't there, but I go through, even when Andy talks about like being delusional, the delusional belief. In the next book that I'm coming out with in a couple months, I talk about the confidence, right, versus humility, right, or complacency versus compete and consistency. And that's exactly it. Like when I had my best years, like I thought I was the best player ever in the whole world. Even if I was, I still believed it. Whether it was in high school, college, professionally for Team USA, any of those situations, playing against some of the best players in the world, I was like delusional in my belief, but I had so much confidence. So I think there is like, I almost got like complacent, right? And it goes back, like now that you say that, it's an aha moment right now. It goes back to like the Bantam B team in 8th grade when I made the B team. I thought I was there. And I just went through the motions, and I wasn't, because those guys were working that much harder. They were that much more consistent. I had it in me, but I just didn't show up, and I wasn't consistent. I wasn't confident. So some of it was development, right? Because I was 21, going into pro hockey, 21, 22. All right. So I was still young, and you have guys that have been there for a long time. So they knew what it took, and I just didn't.
What team did you eventually go from the minors? What teams did you start with?
So Arizona Coyotes, that's where I started. So came here, played here. So in the NHL was Arizona Coyotes, Minnesota Wild, Toronto Maple Leafs. So I had 6-7 years here playing, up and down in the minors in the NHL. And then I went over to Switzerland after that and played there for 5 years.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then what was that process like for the Olympic team? Because a big thing, you scored the winning goal to win bronze for the Team USA, right?
Yep.
How did that come about? What was getting on that team? Like,
so it was the third year, right? So those first 2 years making the minors. My third year, I got sent down to the minor. I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I'm taking it in my own hands. So that 9-month journey, to boil it down in about a minute and a half, 90 seconds, got sent to the minors, said, I'm taking it in my own hands. Unbelievable start to my minor league season. Went and played for Team USA in a makeshift, like I say, tournament, because it wasn't the best players in the world, but it was Canada, US, Switzerland, Germany. Played
the minors when you were on the
Yep. I got sent over there for the national team, right, to play. Peter Laviolette, who now coaches with the New York Rangers, was our coach. Had awesome success. Fast forward, after playing in the NHL the next part of the year, he's the coach for the national team, and he picks me to play. So all of a sudden now I'm playing with some of the best players in the world, right? Chris Drury's our captain, all right? Mike Greer, also unbelievable hockey players against some of the best players in the world. Jaromir Jagr, Peter Forsberg, Nick Lidstrom, all these great hockey players. And that year, going into that, it was like just the awareness of doing it every single day. And before that, I didn't do it every single day, right? I'm being a totally transparent in that, is when, and it's the aha moment, everyone probably that you talk to, that you work with here, that I work with, or it's when you do it every single day. I want to guarantee you're going to have success. Like it's almost a guarantee if you measure it by the right data, and you measure it by, like you said, accountability and timely and everything else. And that's what I did, to be able to do that and play for Team USA and Peter and that, and then go there and all of a sudden be tapped on the shoulder like, hey, game decided, you score, we win.
And you were 12 years professional?
Yep.
What was it like? I want to ask, what was the day? And I think this is big for like professional athletes. You're talking about like the stigmas. What was the day that, I guess, would we retired or left professional sports? What was that year?
Yeah, so for me, it was 2013, 14, somewhere in there, I think 13. So it was concussion related.
Oh, wow.
So I jokingly used to say I could probably play till I'm 40, but I had like multiple concussions like within a certain period of time. So it was more so, it was actually a battle. I sat there at the computer and almost did like a Jerry Maguire memoir type thing where I was like, right, and like I have two choices. I can just suck it up, because concussion, no one knows. Right. But I was going through like, like depression and like anxiety, and like I couldn't see when I'd go to bed, in the morning, and I'd wake up and stay up at night when it's dark.
It's kind of like the UFC fighters that you see that try to stay in, even though they're not in their prime anymore. You already know, like, there is a sweet spot, and especially in sports, because there's reality of things, especially in hockey with as aggressive as it is. You're on like a slippery slope downhill. You're probably not going to get sharper with everything that's going on. That's a hard conversation to have with yourself, where it's like, I'll never be physically. It's almost impossible for me to get back to where I was.
One, that's, do you want to sign that contract, right? And I had 2 kids at the time. I have 4 now, but 2, I'm like, or do I want to be able to go play with them outside?
Yeah.
Do I want to be able to coach them? Do I want to be able to be like coherent?
Yeah.
If I got hit again or something happened, I went through 2 years of like hell and back. It was brutal, and thank God I did not sign another contract, and that I, didn't play. And then, that's where kind of 2.0, 3.0, realistically probably had like 9 lives through different stuff, but that's then now you're a civilian, right? And now you're in a different world.
Yeah. What is that feeling like? Because it's almost like your entire world. I feel like most professional athletes don't even think that far. I would say almost all of them, they think that there's going to be some ride or sponsorships or something's going to take them to the promised land to keep making money forever. Were you making, or did you make enough that can sustain you, for the rest of your life? Or I guess I'll start with this. What's that first like kind of day like? What am I going to do for the rest of my life? I don't have hockey anymore. I know I want to be present with my kids and stuff like that, but what's the conversation of like, where do I go to make money, and how do I keep growing as a person, and where do I start? That's a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
When everything you've known is now behind you.
Yeah. I think 2 things to answer that is, when I was in Toronto, my last year playing in the States before I went over to Europe, I started to do some online classes, just because I'm like, okay, life after hockey is going to be a lot longer. Preparing. So I was preparing, right, to like, what am I going to do next? Kind of did that, checked the box. And then when I got out, I went back to get my MBA in business and finance, because I'm like, okay, I got to like figure this out. Because back, like when I played, I wasn't a top, like even the NHL guys now, right? They make way more money than even we did, 20 years ago, which is obvious in sports, but it wasn't like.
What's the average?
Now, when I played, the minimum was 475,000. Now, the minimum now is 975, I think. So it's
It's still more than I even thought too, which is good.
Yeah. So you still, but when you make a lot, you spend a lot, right? As an athlete, you're doing, $500,000 dinners, and
because you're going to be making more.
Yeah. You're doing crazy stuff. And so for me, I'm like, okay, I got to figure it out. And again, same thing, day one, it was a lot of rehab stuff, right? From concussion stuff. Okay, I was down in Arizona at the Mayo, down in Rochester at the Mayo with some of the best doctors. And a lot of it was lifestyle choices too, right? You can't eat and drink the same. Couldn't work out the same yet because high blood pressure would then. So it was like, I jokingly, said that my new goal was to gain 30 pounds, which is like most people want to lose 30, because I was like delusional on the opposite side. I'm like, okay, my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I want to get up to 230. She's like, what the hell is wrong with you? And it was like, so I could have an excuse to treat myself and my body like shit. And I literally did that. And once I got to 230, then it was the compete person, and it was like a new goal. Now I'm going to go down. I'm going to lose 30 pounds. Because I played hockey at about 197, 203. If I go under a certain way, I look like I'm like sick, basically.
Yeah.
So that's like my sweet spot. And then within, less than 45 days, lost the weight. And it was almost like a challenge. And that's what I think athletes and elite performers, you need a challenge. You need your back against the wall. That's why so many athletes, go bankrupt, get divorced, get depression, right? It's like they're not that they want to, but it either is going to drive them one way or the other. They're going to completely fold and blame people, or they're going to excel. And that's where, for me, I went this way, where it was like, losing a ton of shit and just not being the right person, to going that way, right? Faith, family, business, impact, inspiration.
If there was 10 professional athletes and they were all on their way out of professional sports, how many of them completely lose it and go really down, like don't make a lot, end up in really bad positions for them and their family, versus the people that prepare. Like if I was to put 10 people in a room, I said, these are professional athletes. Erik, we're going to bet 10 grand on how many are going to be successful and we can figure it out. And how many are going to go back because they can't move on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a high percent. I have it in my new book. I have like a chart in there, and I don't know it offhand, but like I kind of break it into, like I said, bankruptcy, depression, divorce, like all those different statistics. And it's alarming how high it is, right? And it depends on the sport too, because a lot of times, I mean, you've seen it with like, even you talk about like Evander Holyfield, and you talk about like these, football players who are claiming bankruptcy who have made hundreds of millions of dollars. And you're like, how the heck? But what happens is you continue to live the same lifestyle, but you're not bringing any money, or you invest in the wrong things. And that's why I always tell athletes now, it's like invest in yourself first and foremost, invest in coaching, invest in building your brand, invest in that type of stuff, because that's going to last forever. And I think that's what happens is so many people are like, well, can I invest in real estate? Can I invest in this? It's like, invest in yourself, get another 5-year contract that pays you $35 million. That's a way better return than investing. So go get a chef, go get a personal coach, go get all this stuff. And it's even in business, like invest in yourself, and then you're going to get, and that's what we don't do as athletes. Like I didn't do it. I invested in myself, like workout and everything else, but then to set yourself up after, it comes quick. And even the preparation I had, it didn't prepare me for the delusional mentality of I could still do whatever I wanted and it would always be there for me. And it wasn't.
I always joke around with people because we're in like the self-investment space. This is what we live and breathe. And people talk about, well, I got to pull from my investments, or I'm debating on where to invest my money. And I always have the conversation of like, what's the average return on the S&P 500, right? Like, let's just say you're going to invest $1,000 in the S&P 500, 7-8%. Let's just say it's 30%. It doesn't even matter. What's the ROI? And I always say the S&P 500.
I like that.
It's everything. You're looking at 2, 3, 4, 500% on your income, on your life, on everything, versus people think that 7, 8, 10%, those investments are going to take them all to the top. Your best investment is in yourself. It's not even necessarily into yourself. Your salespeople, their business people, is investing into your business. And so I think like the self-development space is almost reaching a point where like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm investing in myself. No, like it doesn't need to be this trendy, cool thing. And I'm proud to do it. Like this should be something that's regular because you're investing in your business. And the minute that you're not learning about new strategies, new markets, new ideas, how to communicate, technology, it's the minute that you lose. And so we have to take this thing away from being like, oh, I'm investing in a seminar. You should always be going to seminars, or someone's going to crush you because they have that edge that Andy talks about. Whether that's communication or tech or something, you got to be learning and being ahead of the curve.
Yeah. One, I agree with that. I think investing in yourself, right? I mean, there's a quote by Warren Buffett when he talks about like the best investment you can make is in yourself, right? And he's probably one of the richest guys who's done really well in investing, but he talks about it. I mean, he does it, some of it for free, reading every single day, right? The amount of books that guy's read and what he's done from a knowledge standpoint, it's investing. Some of it is free and some stuff costs money, right? And it's the best ROI that you can have is investing in yourself. And so much of us people, we don't do it, right? Because the easy thing is to keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Definition of insanity, right? And then you go to that spot where you're like, oh my gosh, $3,000 is a lot of money. Or this, well, is $3,000 a lot of money, or you showing up like shit, being a loser, not getting to the next level, not having faith, right, in God or yourself or your family or your people? What costs more, right? And it's amazing how, but yet I'll spend $3,000, on this CRM tool that I don't even know what it's there for, right? Or I'll spend this much money on, this certain brand I'm trying to build, but you don't even know how to build yourself, right? And that's why I love what Andy, you, and all the people talk about, right? It's building your brand. It's like my brand, Elite. It's like I'm building it, and if I don't show up this way, it's that honestly, this writing a book and doing everything else, for me, it's like an accountability measure because it's out there and it's on social media. It's how I show up when I speak. And it's like, if I'm not embracing discipline and I'm not doing it, then how can I talk about it? Who's going to listen to me?
It's funny you said it's an accountability tool. I say that about social media when I post waking up in the morning. It's the same thing too, because now you have to hold that standard. And I actually want to transition into this. Talk to me about the book and some of the stuff you guys are doing right now today.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. So for me, right. You go back to as I went through, business and everything else. It's like, I'd have this great company and then I'd lose it. And I'd have this great company and I'd lose it. Or I'd work for someone and I'd get fired. It's the same crap I did in hockey. It's again, that whole thing of like, I would almost put myself against the wall. It was like competitive fire, but it's unhealthy when you have a family and finances. When you're single and you're doing, it's like, whatever, I'll make it back. I'll figure it out. Right. So for me, I started to look at them like, what are those things? Like, why do I keep doing that? Like what, and part of it was like shame. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me? And finally I got in, I'm like, okay, give myself grace. Just like the Lord gives me grace. I don't have to earn it. I'm giving it. Right. And then I started to look and I'm like, how can I write about it to impact, inspire, and influence other people? So started to write my book. I'm like, okay, how do I do this? What's next? Hooked up with Chandler in self-publishing and started using some of his resources in the book published on his site and started working with their people. And it was a proven process to get me from idea to finished concept. And it changed my life, right? It was able to create a platform around being elite, around discipline. It's all the stuff we just talked about in a very short period of time that I've put into the book around 4 proven pillars of performance. So psychological, physical, spiritual, and emotional. So it's the 4 pillars I talk about. So it's, fixed to growth mindset. It's a disciplined routine, beliefs and values, and being relational, not transactional. And that's why I love what you guys are doing, because it's just packaged differently, but it's the same thing, right? It's here's how you become successful and here's what you do. So I've been doing that, and, speaking, coaching, consulting, doing different stuff with people, athletes, businesses, and then working with Chandler and his group as far as like, speaking, being able to help people publish their book and their story. Because people think, oh my gosh, it's so hard.
That's what I was going to say too. Like, I think a lot of people I talk to, entrepreneurs or people with the story, oh, I'm going to write a book one day about this. And they kind of make that joke. And most people never do. And, my father is no longer here on this earth. And it's like, there's so many stories that could have been told. But I want to ask you, do you think that you would have been able to write in a book this good, written this book this good without the frameworks and without the assistance of other people that have done it and been very successful at it? Like, do you think that you could have kind of winged it and got it? Or do you think that the reason it's crushing is the combo of having professionals in your corner and then you having that knowledge coming together to create something really special?
Well, it's just like we talked about, it's invest in yourself. And that's, same thing with a book, right? You can go out there and try to find somebody to do your cover design, your formatting, help you write it and everything else. But it's like
5 or 6 different people.
Yeah. It's like, why not just find like a proven process, right? So self-publishing has published over 7,500 books, 91 countries, 18 languages, right? Whether it's a fiction book, a children's book, self-help book, a memoir, all types of books, the specialty and just the process, right? Aligning you with a one-on-one coach, having group accountability through mastermind, right? It's all the stuff that really good companies, you guys included, do, right? It's bring you into this brotherhood and this group of people that wants to see you have success. Because it's not just, hey, come in and go through an assembly line and it's like collect your money and good luck. We want to make sure you have a really good book that sells. But what's your goal, right? Is your goal, like you said, if your dad would have written a book, is it to leave a legacy, right? It's not, I just want 10 books to be able to give out on Christmas and I can leave my legacy. If I sell 10,000, somehow great. Other people, like for me, it was to build a business and to build a brand. So I'm like, I don't care if I sell 10,000 books, but I want to get it into 10,000 people's hands so then I can go speak or I can help coach or consult. So
leverage is like all the different platforms.
Keyword leverage, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everything is leverage. You got to find ways to, get that edge, like kind of like we talk about, How can people, so like if someone's like thinking about a book, how can they get in contact with you? Like what's a good way for everybody to connect if they're interested in doing, a book?
Yeah. So, 2 ways, right? Is self-publishing, right? Through our website. Otherwise, I don't know if we can drop like a link in the podcast thing or a QR code or something.
There'll be a link in the description.
Yeah. So that's the easiest way. And then what I do is I'll meet with people for 30-minute discovery calls and just kind of talk. Hey, Danny, what's your idea? What are you thinking you want to do? Where do you want to go with it? And then see if it makes sense. And if we can help you, we'll be able to help you. And if not, give you resources, right?
What are a couple, even if you're allowed, right? You guys have worked with some really reputable people. What are a couple companies or people that you work with that have, they're pretty legit?
Yeah. So, we do a lot of partnership stuff. Like if it goes into the ghostwriting side, obviously you can't talk about that because of NDAs, right? With like because we're writing the book for the person. But as far as like, partnerships and affiliations, right? So like Bedros, we've done stuff with their group. Dean Graziosi's group, John Maxwell, we do a lot of stuff with their group. So it's like those types of people and authors, and then we'll help them kind of, so like, for instance, like your guys' group, if you have someone you're coaching, or with like John, they're coaching somebody through that want to build their brand and business, we'll take that and basically take them through the whole process.
Those are some solid names.
Yeah.
We'll end off on this, man. If you had to give just one piece of advice that was off your heart, and it was your last message, your last time on stage, and it was a group of 10,000 entrepreneurs, what would you tell them? What would be the most single-handedly most important thing that you could tell them? Your last time on stage, leaving, what would you say?
I mean, I'd kind of probably do a combo. I mean, I'd say the most important thing is it's what you do when no one's looking, and that's embracing discipline. That's what I would say for me. It's people show up when people are watching, but then what do you do when they're not? So for me in hockey, coaches are on the ice, guys put the extra work in. For me, I'd put the extra work in before anyone was there. I didn't even tell the coaches, didn't tell the people. So for me, it's like what you're doing when no one's looking, because then that's how you're truly going to show up. So you got to do it when no one is watching, and that's how you're going to get the results.
I love it, man. Where can people find you at? You got Instagram, you got socials, YouTube?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, working on all that branding. It's funny because I'm kind of just do it behind the scenes a little bit, referral based, and then as you kind of try to blow it up, right? You got to learn from guys like you and Andy and everybody else. So for me, Eric.
People want to even get the book too. Where can they go?
Easy. ErikWestrum.com, ErikWestrum.book.com. Otherwise, Amazon. It's on the same spot, but that's where all my stuff is. And I give out all my stuff right now. I just give out free info. So I do like weekly newsletter, online courses, everything. I'm an impact person right now. I haven't built, a ton around it outside the speaking side. So I'm just trying to get information into people's hands as much as possible.
I love it, man. Well, I appreciate you being on here today.
Thanks, brother.
And hopefully you guys got value. Make sure you guys share the episode out. We'll see you in the next one.